second. Go ahead, say that again, would you?
The Missouri Lumber and Mining Company, they brought a lot of their men, their people up with them from Grandin when they sold out. When they built, now you want to know about West Eminence and Fishertown both. Well, Fishertown, it was all local. Oh, there'd be farmers come in, you know, maybe in work in the winter, and there'd be some of them from, say, like Willow Springs or Birch Tree or someplace like that would come in and work. And some from up in Texas County would come down and work. But over here at West Eminence, why, they brought quite a lot of mostly their mechanics and their head sawyers and people that had upper jobs, you know. They brought them and their families up.
How did people live there? What did they live in? Their houses and stuff?
Well, the mill houses now, especially West Eminence, they were 2- and 3-room houses, and they were built narrow enough. Well, they did something like these motorhomes now, built on the same, they look alike. That is what I mean in length and height and width. And they'd load one of them when they'd go to move camp. When they'd go to move camp, why, they'd put one of these houses on 2 logging cars and move them from one camp to the other. They put large timbers. It stayed right. The house was built right on these large timbers, so they could be moved. Now, in town, in West Eminence, the town, why, they built all those houses, and they were from, well, the smallest one that I can remember of was 3-room, but they run clear on up to 6 rooms. I know there's some of them head sawyers and well, the doctor had a 5-room home. I know because I lived in it for quite a long time after he left.
How many people would live in these houses in the town?
Well, as I remember, there's about, at West Eminence, there's about 800 inhabitants.
Oh, I'm sorry, I mean, how many in a family?
Oh, they wasn't any awfully large families. They'd average about 3 to the family, but of course some of them didn't have any, and some just have 1. Some would have 5 or 6.
I've seen some of those pictures. They don't look real comfortable, were they? Were the houses comfortable? They don't look too comfortable.
Well, some of those mill houses, like the one, you know, I've got a great big group of them there. They like the ones I was telling you about, the narrow ones. They were, now it depended on who lived in them. Lots of times people would tack cardboard over, and then paper over that. And that made them that much warmer. But otherwise, they were just a box house, and they were sealed with beaded ceiling, 4-inch beaded ceiling. That's what they were sealed with. And of course, there wasn't anyone, but just one had a stove. That's all. Mostly king heaters. There's some of them that had nicer stoves and that, but the most of them, they just used king heaters. And then, of course, everybody had an iron cooking stove. Well, in real cold weather, they'd burn both of them. That'd heat the whole house.
What about plumbing and water?
The water, we got, where we lived, we carried water. We carried all of our drinking water and cooking water from the deep well. It is down by the planing mill. Everybody nearly in that whole neighborhood there carried from there. But there was several that had dug cisterns, you know. Some of them, they'd hit a little stream of water. But most of them got their water from, nowadays, Fishertown, or West Eminence. They had water all over, most all over town, but it was out in the street. We stood up on, most of the time, the pipes were about this high. And there's one about every 2 blocks. And people carried the water from there to cook with and wash and so forth. But the ones that, as they took an ocean, they wanted some good cold water, they'd go down to the deep well. That water that watered the town came from Mahan's Creek. They just pumped it right out of the creek. There wasn't no purification or anything.
How were people paid?
Paid?
Paid. What were they paid in company money or?
Well, the company, you got coupons. They came in from $1 to $10. They were just a coupon and they were perforated. Each number was perforated, you know, and you just tore out whatever amount you traded out. Now you could get them anytime if you had them coming, but they only paid cash once a month, on the 15th. That's all the payday.
Did a lot of people buy on credit?
Not many. They didn't buy anything at the company store on credit. They bought, now at West Eminence, there's 2 small grocery stores. One was between the Eminence and, well, it was just on the outstrut, just across the line, company line. On the road over to Eminence, there was a small grocery, and there's a small grocery and a barber shop on what they call Rosa Hill. That was across the creek up on the hill. Well, they did a credit work. They did credit. That is, if it is somebody they knew.
What could you buy at the company stores?
Just about anything. That is, anything that, in the way of groceries and clothing, and a lot of hardware, feed. You can buy all kinds of feed, hay, bran, corn.
What about specialty items from the outside? I've seen some of those ads in the Current Wave, and it looked like you could, buy New York fashions and things like that there.
No, now you take, they didn't have anything, what you'd call, what you or I would buy, only to work in. Most of them, they carried was just the blue overalls, with a bib and a jacket. Now, of course, when I worked in the planing mill. I graded lumber there about 6 years, I guess. But in the wintertime, I wore corduroys all the time, full suit. But most of them wore just bibbed overalls.
How did you make a living as a photographer?
How did I?
How did you? What would you do to make money as a photographer?
I don't know hardly how to explain that. I didn't. I made good money out of it. I made 50% on everything I done. Then still it was cheap.
Who did you take pictures of, though?
Oh my goodness. I was always looking for something to make a picture of. Just like I tell you one in particular. I stepped out in my backyard one evening when I come from work, and the sun was just barely down. the best time in the world to take pictures. That afterglow, you know. And I stepped out there, and they